To Andy Oram with O'Reilly Media. He is an editor who's been with the organization for 15 years. Could you tell us exactly what you do?
I was responsible for a lot of books in the animal series, and as we expanded beyond them, did things like Beautiful Code, which came out last year, was quite popular. I'd say the series of Beautiful Code is in Theory and Practice is one of the best and fastest growing series. I'm doing a couple new books in that one. For instance, another book in that Theory and Practice series that's coming out soon is called The Art of Capacity Planning. And that book follows on an animal book. I did an animal book last year that was very popular, which was called High Performance Websites. That was a big new subject. So what some people call front-end engineering. And as he was writing the book, the author, Steve Suter, said we should do a conference on it. And he got together a bunch of people from Amazon, Google, eBay, all sorts of big sites. And we agreed it was time for a conference. We put one on. It was very successful. That conference is called Velocity. It just shows the kind of back and forth talks we have between different groups, conferences, online site, and books.
So if we think about books like The Art of Capacity Planning and Beautiful Code, and even the book by Steve Suter, they seem to be spanning a number of different technologies. Is that the direction that books are moving in towards?
It's true that O'Reilly used to be known for books about a single subject, and the book would often have a one-word title. Send Mail, very popular book, or Set an Awk. 3 words, because you need 3 words to say what you're doing, but they're very specific. You would have a library or a utility, and they were very popular. And we found that we would have trouble back in those days, the 1990s, trouble doing books that were sort of mushier and crossed different disciplines. But now people aren't so interested in books about a particular library or utility. First of all, there's a lot of material online. Secondly, it changes fast. So they're looking for books that do give them the background, maybe the things they wish they had been taught in computer science courses. Now, that's why Theory and Practice is doing well.
What about free books? Every time I go into an office, I see people have a copy of the Subversion book. What is O'Reilly doing with free books?
Well, it's really up to the author. At first, we were a little skittish about doing it, and the author would have to be very determined and say, this is my belief. I really think we need to make it free. And now we're in a more neutral place. I like the idea of doing free books myself, but I tend to say, let the author decide. And there are some times when I thought it would make sense to make a book open or free, but the author wasn't too comfortable with it.
Are there books where it makes more sense than others?
I don't know if there is. There are a lot of some people think that you will get more attention, or people will have a better feeling about you if you make a book free. There are 1 or 2 people who will tell me I really think that this book should be out there in the community, but I find that it doesn't affect sales either way. Maybe we need to do more education about the value of putting it out there, and people could download it in underdeveloped countries where they can't even get access to a printed book from O'Reilly even if they had the money to buy it. So we could do more of that kind of education. But right now, it doesn't seem to have an effect, positive or negative, on sales. But I do like the idea that you have information for everybody. There's a lot of excitement out in communities that produce software right now, and they like to share information. I feel that excitement. It feels a little funny for me to pull information out of that and put it into a print book that is sold to a certain subclass of people.
In terms of the big trends, there's capacity planning. There's more and more data. People have to store petabytes of information. There's stuff like grid computing. There's stuff like Hadoop and Bigtable. What are you seeing as the big trends that are starting to develop?
This is very hard to say, because sometimes I get a feel from the community of what's important, and it's very different from what you hear in the press. I think all over the trade press and the academic journals too, like Communications of the ACM, which I often quote in my articles, you hear all this talk about multi-core and parallelism. It's the big thing, and in fact they say you can't move ahead without it. And yet around here, I don't see much excitement about it among the programmers who are going to make it happen. So I think, yes, it's true, just like IPv6. We need IPv6 in the future. We're going to eventually run into all kinds of problems with people fighting over the scarce resource. But you don't see anybody really adopting it. And that's kind of interesting. And maybe, as often happens, communities find new solutions. They don't use the solutions that all the experts and, of course, the big companies in the area, the ones that they say you have to use. Instead, they find simpler, quick and dirty solutions that work fine.
So you're saying that people at this conference are more focused on doing it simpler with, less complex hardware?
And now that's something you don't have to be ashamed of anymore. It used to be, well, yeah, we just coded this up using whatever, PHP or something, but we ought to have really done it in Java. But now you go to sessions about, say, starting a business, went to a very nice one on that, people say, oh, just do it fast, get something out there, it doesn't even matter if it's buggy. And I talked to one startup, which is still in stealth mode, that says we want to have a site where people put up buggy code. And then other people says, you don't need regression tests. I don't know if I really believe that, but it's an interesting idea. It'll be a Wikipedia for code. About the conference, I noticed more people seem to be talking about starting a business. There are sessions about it. There are people who are really thinking hard about how to turn what they're doing into a business, and I hear people talking in the halls about it. Part of that is just the cost of the conference. This conference is not one of the cheaper ones. It's a good value for the money, but the people who come here are not the college students who are coding up the next new great user interface in their spare time. The people coming here probably have the money to be starting businesses, but I do think the open source movement has finally grasped that they've got, not only that they can form businesses around this, but it's really up to them to do it.
What's the organization going to do to try to reach out to the people who might not be able to afford to come to this conference?
We have a lot of videos, like the one you're making right now. We do have Safari, which is pretty cost effective. It's a pretty good way to get things if you're in other countries. Certainly we have to earn enough money to keep doing this, and there's a lot that goes into a conference. We have pretty good food. We had some really nice entertainment, and this is a nice center to meet in. But I think we're going to put more stuff online, and online is a place for everybody, as long as you have the bandwidth to get it.
We've got the bandwidth and the good food. All right, thank you for talking to us, Andy.